Today in the crypto space, we see Bitcoin getting a bit of a bounce to the upside. However, guys, it's still below that $40,000 mark. Ethereum also getting a bit of a bounce, hovering around that $2,200 level. The rest of the crypto space, the altcoins also bouncing. Solana, ICP, Tau looking really strong, and many, many more. In today's video, I want to talk about the general market. I want to use Bitcoin as a leading indicator. But more importantly, I want to talk about one altcoin, one project that is looking pretty good. The setup overall is looking interesting, and that project is called Prime. So you know what? Let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins, looking for opportunities, whether we go up or down, bearish or bullish, it doesn't matter. All we want to do is stay one step ahead of this market so that we can capitalize on any of the volatility. And if you appreciate the strategy, subscribe to the channel, click that bell so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, including the live streams at 7:30 Eastern, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Guys, if you have any projects you want me to cover here on the channel, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. You can hit me up on the socials. The links are in the description. And of course, guys, join the Discord. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. All right, guys, let's begin. Let's take a look at what's happening here on the top 100 first. Then we'll take a look at Bitcoin, and then we'll talk about the project of the day, which is Prime. Of course, the market right now is looking okay. We're getting a bit of relief to the upside. This is what I expected based on the 4-hour time frame. You know, we can trade the 4-hour, we can trade the daily, we can trade the 1 hour. In fact, you guys can even trade the 5-minute or the 1 minute. But personally speaking, I prefer swing trading the daily and the 4-hour, looking for entries on both time frames, but preparing myself accordingly to that time frame. In the last little while, I expected the 4-hour to get a bit of a bullish bounce, given the fact that it was already oversold on many of the charts already. Bitcoin, of course, leading the way, and we do see a bit of relief here. Now, on the daily, we potentially can see a continuation to the downside, so do not get too comfortable here with this little run. It could do well, but ultimately, statistically speaking, it's all about probability. I would like to see the daily fully oversold before I get bullish. All right, we'll talk about that in a second once we look at the Bitcoin price, but for now, let's skim through this for a second here. We see Ethereum doing a very similar thing. In fact, the bounce is not even as strong. It's still down 12% for the last 7 days, while Bitcoin is only down approximately 6.5%. That's about half. Okay, so let's understand here right now that Bitcoin in general is showing dominance over the altcoin market. We have Solana coming down in the last week, but today up 6%, a nice little relief to the upside. And you can see, generally speaking, we are getting this relief market-wide. It's a slight relief, 2%, 4%. But then if you compare it to the rest of the week, it's still bearish, quite bearish, in fact. And this could be just a bit of a dead cat bounce, a bit of relief to the upside. And that's what I'm expecting here. Polygon up 3%. And if you keep on scrolling down, you can see, generally speaking, that's the overall consensus. Yes, ICP right now is doing pretty good. It's up 10%. Give or take, but do we expect it to continue to the downside very soon? And it's very possible here, guys. Honestly, unless we start making higher highs again, I do expect that some of these charts are going to be giving us confirmation highs, lower highs, and start breaking lower levels. And of course, until Bitcoin gives us that bottom, that indication that it's going to stop giving us that FUD, that fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the market, guys, we could expect altcoins to continue coming down. And of course, I'm going to be preparing for that, right? So, yeah, that's the whole objective of the current moment, is finding the right opportunity to deploy our stables, to deploy our dry powder, because of course, you know, you should be taking profits on the top and buying the dips at the bottom. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. Injective looking okay. A bit of relief, but you can see the relief is about 4% market wide, more or less. The dips on the weekly are much more heavier, so the trend is still to the downside regardless of this little relief. Lido looking okay, and as we keep on growing down, BitTensor Tau, what an amazing move today. 20% to the upside for BitTensor Tau. I don't know if you've been watching the channel or not, but yesterday we talked about how BitTensor Tau was showing strength by at least going sideways while the market was going negative. And then I mentioned very clearly that what do you think is going to happen to Bitcoin once, or BitTensor, sorry, once we get into the mode of a bullish bounce? Well, guess what? It bounced much harder than the rest of the market, because generally speaking, we use the price action to give us an indication of market sentiment. And if the price is going sideways during bearish conditions, that means it's bullish. But ultimately, what will happen when it's actually when the rest of the market catches up to this bullish idea? BitTensor was already in a bullish stance. It got a head start, and look at it. It's up 20% today. So congrats if you were able to get in on BitTensor. I did release a video earlier on, guys. I release videos twice a day, looking at different projects, of course, and deep dives every Sunday. The last deep dive was on tech. If you're looking at Techdom and you want to get in and start looking for good projects, obviously get into those fundamentals. Techdom is decent. Go check that video out if you're interested in. But we kind of, started looking at some good dips in the last little while, and some of them are still retracing, like Neon and Realio, Ethereum. It's kind of showing us the potential scenario where we get an altcoin season, and this is why we should be looking for altcoins at lower levels. But let's wait for that bounce. Let's wait for that confirmation support, and then we'll slowly start scaling in. We have Miria coming down, Trias, Pith. Maybe it looked very, very bullish in the last little while, so maybe it's starting to look for that breakout. But you can see that retracements are here, and they're meant to be bought. All right, guys, so let's continue here on the charts, and you can see, generally speaking, this is the case. We have a random anomaly of BitTensor, and of course Sui doing pretty good, but I'm expecting Sui to make that lower high. It could be very possible that it starts to continue showing bullishness here, but I am not convinced. I am not going to get in a bullish long on a market in general where you can see it's still very red, right? Only 2 projects right now are showing extreme strength. Maker's not bad either. But you get what I mean. Probability and statistically speaking, at the current moment, it is very, very risky to get into a fresh long. So I can see the market very hesitant at the current moment. Even Scicoin is coming down significantly. It's down approximately 17.5% today. So you can see that the market movers, the ones that move really, really hard, eventually retrace and come down equally as hard. So this is what I'm trying to say here. Be careful. Fracshare looking okay. We have Manta getting a nice pop to the upside, 25%. That's pretty good. So there are a few good gainers, but it's very risky to expect all the market to be doing that when Bitcoin is coming down, Ethereum is showing weakness, and the rest of the market is pretty much giving us that consensus. All right, guys, so we'll get those confirmations. We'll get in at better risk to reward ratio opportunities. There's no point in taking risk. Remember, risk is public enemy number 1. All right, guys, I know you're here to talk about charts. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Let's begin looking at Bitcoin. And of course, we can see that Bitcoin ultimately is doing pretty good. It's holding up. It's okay where it is right now, as long as it holds up. However, guys, if we do see the daily get its way, the daily momentum could come down to oversold conditions. And for me, that's problematic. It's very, very problematic, because ultimately we'll see the altcoins come down further. And of course, those of us that have been scaling into altcoins are going to have to endure, right? We're going to have to endure and understand that the market is going to be taking that hit based on Bitcoin. And ultimately, that would be a fire sale opportunity. It's not a negative. It's a positive. If you're bullish, when you see the prices coming down, that means you're in a good state. You're not overexposed, and you're looking for those opportunities to scale in heavier, because your conviction is suggesting that you expect a bull run around the corner, right? So it is very, very possible that we begin the bullish momentum to the upside once we get this confirmation. Now, there's a few bears out there, guys. Of course, there's many, many bears. I wouldn't classify myself as a bear or a bull, but I am long-term bullish. So ultimately, I am a bull, but I don't mind basically getting into a bearish stance where I do see opportunity, right? When we do see it coming down, we see the price coming down, we see the momentum coming down, we see the MACD trend strength coming down, we see everything coming down. We almost have to get into that bearish stance to put ourselves in the shoes of the bears. Where do we expect the bears to essentially take profits on their short, or expect the bounce or the support off the bulls, right? And ultimately, what I'm looking for, okay, right now where we are right now is okay. 38, that's fine. But really, honestly, the $33 to $32 mark, 32K mark is where I'm expecting Bitcoin to really hold that support. We have this nice trend line here at the bottom that could be respected. We have the nice little volume gap right into the zone that could be respected. If we do get a bounce here, it's a bit of relief. Maybe get a dead cat bounce, or maybe a lower high right around this level, and eventually get into this bigger distribution pattern where we eventually come down. And if we do eventually get a nice nice bounce here and a bit of relief to the upside and we get into this distribution pattern, it's very likely that we see altcoins run really hard. So my theory or my thesis based on what was happening here a while back before the breakdown is still very valid. We could definitely come up and still range in this level. And every time we get this confirmation that Bitcoin is holding support, people are going to get confident in the market. They're going to start looking for altcoins. They're going to start trying to front run the altcoin market. And we might see an altcoin pump. So this is what we got to watch out for. Bitcoin, does it hold support at 38? I think it's possible, but I'm prepared to buy the dips at lower levels on those altcoins significantly harder. I'm already skilled in enough right now, and obviously you guys should be as well. You should have enough exposure that if we see a nice Bitcoin pop to the upside where we get a bit of relief and we see altcoins outperform Bitcoin, you should be very happy, right? And if you're not, that means you don't have enough exposure. However, are you also going to be happy if it does come down? And if you do, and then you are happy, it's because you're not overexposed. So what you really have to do is find a nice healthy balance of exposure. And this is what I always say to you guys: always have a bit of cash on the side to be able to deploy and buy those dips. I'm expecting about 32k momentum oversold on the daily. Let's do it and let's get it done. Rip it off like a band-aid. Let's get it over with. And you can see the MACDs here on the histogram bars are still doing the same thing. I know my charts are a mess. Yeah, I get it, but it works out for me. Let me see if I can clean this up a bit. I'm a bit of a slob right here, but you can see that we're making a bit of a channel to the downside with regards to trend strength. We're in the bearish control zone. EMA is coming down. Histogram bars are red. What else do we want here, guys? Not time to go long on Bitcoin. Not time to go long on the market unless you're planning on getting or taking a risk on those random anomalies that might just run, like BitTensor Tau. You know how bullish I am, but generally speaking, those are anomalies. Those are randoms that do very well. But statistically speaking, guys, you're taking chance right now. So be careful. All right, guys, let's talk about the coin for today. It's Prime. Guys, I've been getting a lot of action, a lot of questions about Prime, so I figured why not? Let's update the community. The reason why I like this chart is about clarity, and that's what I've been focusing on. Yesterday's video was all about clarity. Microvision chain space. If you missed that one out, go check it out. The chart is very clear, and I like this chart because it's also super clear, and it follows exactly very traditional TA. You can see we have some tops right here very nicely, basically a nice level of horizontal support, very nice, and we got a nice top right here that we are currently respecting, horizontal support as well. And what I like the most is the volume gap, honestly, because of the volume. You can see that there's a weakness right into here. From this level, which is at about $6.75 to all the way about $4.50 more or less, you can see that there's not much volume into here. And if we decide to break down, we can come straight down all the way down to this level and see the momentum on the RSI get oversold. And that's my signal. That's my trigger. As soon as we get oversold, I start looking for confluence. I start looking for patterns. I start looking for divergences. I look for horizontal supports. I look for EMAs. I look for MACD EMA crosses. I look for all kinds of stuff, green histogram bars. Whatever it is, I would like to see some evidence that we've held the bottom. At the current moment, it looks like an inverse cup and handle. We have the handle and the cup. Okay, now what about if we do get that relief bounce to the upside here on Prime? Like BitTensor and many other coins right now, based on the 4 hour, are looking like it might be, aiming for a bit of relief. Now it's not over. The reality is it could be a right shoulder, and this is something that we need to identify. And we also have to identify that the patterns, the shoulder, the head and the shoulder, or the cup and handle, those are ways to simplify the sentiment of price action. Those are bearish patterns when they're inverse like this. But what does that mean? Why is it bearish? And the reality is it's bearish because what we're really getting here is a confirmation high, a lower high. So if you look at this high and we compare it to this body of candles right here, because when you look for divergence, you have to exclude the wicks and you just include the body. So let me see if I can do that successfully here and just kind of rearrange this. If you do one of these or even one of these, whatever it is, you can see it's still upward sloping regardless. Okay. And then all of a sudden you see that the momentum is making those lower highs on the price action, higher highs on the RSI. That's class A bearish divergence right here. We broke a bit of a trend, which suggests that we, are potentially coming down, which we did. And now we're getting a bit of support at previous lows, which is interesting because we could be breaking a bit of a change of structure right now. If we make a lower low after making consecutive higher highs, as we've been doing, it could be very possible that we fall through this volume gap. Now, what other confirmation can we be waiting for? Given the fact that the 4 hour might be getting a bit of relief, we might get the ultimate confirmation which would be a confirmation high, a lower high, which which in other words, a right shoulder. Shoulder, head, shoulder, and then all of a sudden come back down and start breaking this neckline. What we're really doing is getting a bit of relief to basically pick up some more bears. We want more bearish bids right here. People are going to be offloading. The bulls will be offloading because they're fearful, taking their last profits, understanding that ultimately maybe this is going to be a bearish scenario and they want to de-risk. And then the bears are going to kick in. Once the bears kick in, we'll be coming down to these lower levels and potentially breaking below the volume gap, which is showing us a tremendous amount of weakness. And then we start looking for horizontal support. So this is where these tops come in. Now, we do see the 200 daily EMA right here, the orange line. Could the orange line act as support? It could definitely interrupt this thesis by seeing the price actually fall and allowing the 200 daily to act as a nice level of support and get that bounce and get a few people wrecked. So this is something that we have to kind of play by ear. But the reality is I don't expect that to happen because there's no other confirmation other than the 200. Yes, people trade the 200, but we like to look for other confirmations. When you see a bunch of weakness in here, that means that there's no market participation in this level that are interested in defending or getting offensive or defensive in the zone. So which means that who is going to actually react to the 200 daily EMA if there's no real necessity? In fact, the bulls will want it to come down to this level. Let's confirm this as support, and then they will get in heavy and get into that bounce because they are a bit afraid that even if it does break through the volume gap, that it's likely to come down here. And unless we do get to that level and show potential support, bulls will not get in heavy. It's all about risk. You have to understand what's happening. You get into the shoes of the bears and the bulls and come up with your thesis. So what I'm waiting for here is a bit of relief based on the 4 hour. The 4 hour got oversold like many other coins have been in the last little while. Last night on the live stream, we went through a few projects and we noticed that overall the 4 hour is showing us a bit of strength. Now, Prime hasn't really got its momentum yet, hasn't got its pop, but you can see, and it's not even getting really any divergence at the current moment. So it could be a bit of time before that happens, but we are seeing a bullish divergence on the MACD. Let me show you what I mean here. We got higher highs, higher lows on these histogram bars here. We got an EMA cross to the upside, and we got a few green histogram bars nicely poised to the upside, which is really, really nice. We can see that obviously this is trying potentially to get to the higher levels, which is a good indication that we are at horizontal support and that we could get that bounce, given that we are seeing some strength even on Bitcoin and Ethereum and many of the altcoins getting a bit of that relief. So will I be going long here? Absolutely not. Why? Because I feel like the overall trend is still bearish market wide. So going against the trend right now is putting me in a scenario where I'm going against it, which is not fair. It's not right. It could be short-lived. This bullish move could be short-lived. So really what I'd rather do is let it run up and if anything, short to the downside. And I'm not talking only about Prime. I'm talking about market-wide conditions are giving us opportunities to get in with shorts with confirmations. So if you're going to get into a short, you got to wait for all these confirmations and get in from a healthy risk-to-reward ratio and obviously enter your shorts upon areas of resistance, which it would be, right within this volume gap at these tops right here, and back testing this diagonal resistance in this case that would act as resistance, previous support acting as resistance. So a little bit of a back test, a little bit of a dead cat bounce, whatever you want to call it, relief rally, and then all of a sudden come right down to these levels and start breaking. The cup and handle or the inverse head and shoulder really does turn into a bearish move once it breaks the neckline, which is at about $6.73 more or less. Okay, the reality is it could get support again and again and again and eventually go bullish. So really what we want to do is wait for the break. And what's very good about this is that your invalidation for the bullish thesis is very clear. Now if we fall below here, you can put a stop loss right under here and go long. I wouldn't, but you get what I mean. You can put a very tight stop loss with a lot of conviction that if it does break down, you could basically mitigate all your risk. Very little losses can be incurred here. So even right now, that's a very possible scenario. But ultimately, guys, getting short right at this level, you got to be careful because you got a bit of price action here to kind of, still make a little bit higher highs. So we got to be very careful here and basically get into a DCA or get into your short position very slowly. If that's what you're going to do, go in slowly, build your position over time. So that way you can get in heavier as it goes up. And where's your invalidation? The reality is the invalidation is at these tops. So it's still fairly high up here. So a small short is all I would do. And in fact, I'm not even really interested in shorting the market at the current moment. I'm really focusing on accumulation for the bull run coming, and then I'm going to start longing the crap out of this market, because ultimately in a bull run, everything is on easy mode. Why would I go right now and start using leverage on hard mode? In the bull run, everything's on easy mode. Everybody will be a winner, and I'd rather preserve my capital and arrange myself and prepare myself for that scenario. All right, guys, if I've offered you any value here on the channel, do the channel a massive favor. Slap the like button. It does really help out with the algorithm. And of course, feel free to follow me on the Discord. The Discord is a great community, lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. Take care, guys. See you tonight at 7:30 Eastern, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Take care, have a good one, and don't forget, buy the dip.